After 5 years of anticipation, the Platform 2 arrives with a shocking return, and this time, the story is even more brutal and merciless. Is level 333 really the bottom of this prison pit? Are there higher levels above level 0? How can the system of the pit be broken? The Platform 2 might offer you some answers. Zamyatin was sent to a sealed vertical prison after trying to set his parents on fire, but he was surprised to learn that every inmate could request their favorite dish and bring one personal item. Many inmates were in the same situation, and they eagerly told the staff the names of their favorite foods. The next day, Zamyatin saw his favorite pizza on the platform that descended from above. But to his rage, the meat and pork tenderloin had already been eaten. Zamyatin was on level 24, and when he looked up at the prisoners above, someone immediately exposed that it was the people on level 21 who did it, accusing them of breaking the rules on the first day, eating not only their own food, but others as well. When Zamyatin picked up a chicken wing from the platform, he was stopped by Robespierre from above, who said they had agreed on a rule. No one eats others' food unless there's a mutual exchange. But Zamyatin laughed. Why wasn't the person who ate his food punished? Robespierre's female cellmate told Zamyatin not to act on his own and not to behave like the barbarians who eat whatever they want. But Zamyatin argued that the person on level 21 who ate his food was the real barbarian. Robespierre explained that they were part of the Loyalists, and the rules they created weren't easy to establish. Since the Revolution of Unity began, the pit had become more fair each month, and with everyone working together, both rules and food could reach the bottom levels. If Zamyatin ate others' food, others would think they could do the same, which would hurt some people, then more, triggering a domino effect that would leave the lower levels with nothing. But a starving Zamyatin didn't care. He was about to put the chicken wing in his mouth when his female cellmate spoke up, saying she agreed with the people upstairs and offered to share her croquette. Zamyatin smelled the croquette Perempuan tossed to him, then put the chicken wing back on the tray, but warned that he didn't want his food to be tampered with again tomorrow. Robespierre from above told him to eat quickly, since they had to finish before the platform started descending. Keeping food was forbidden by the administration and could result in deadly consequences. Zamyatin picked up the pizza and questioned why the person who ate his food wasn't punished by the administration, only to find out that the only eat your own food rule was an internal agreement, not something enforced by the system. Robespierre told Zamyatin he was lucky to start on level 24, but next month he might end up on a much lower level, and then he'd understand why the rules mattered. The administration's indifference was intentional. They couldn't let themselves be broken by it. Soon the platform moved downward and they introduced themselves. Her name was Perempuan. She said her favorite food was the ham croquette made by her ex-boyfriend, but sadly, she could no longer taste it. Perempuan had a dark and painful past. She entered the prison voluntarily, hoping time would help her forget what she had done. Just then, an alarm blared throughout the prison. When their communication reached level 44, something seemed to go wrong, and they didn't know if the food had been fairly distributed down from there. Perempuan asked how many levels the prison had, and Robespierre immediately replied 333. But he added that the total number wasn't important. What mattered was that everyone could eat. So tomorrow, their allies from levels 19 and 20 would drop to level 21 to protect Zamyatin's pizza, while the people from 42 and 43 would go to level 44, so those below could eat. Suddenly, the platform rocketed upward from the bottom, startling both Zamyatin and Perempuan. The next day, while Zamyatin waited for food, he saw an incident on level 23. Someone from level 21 who had eaten his pizza came down on the platform from a higher level in a violent attack. Seeing that level 22 couldn't stop him, Robespierre and his roommate dismantled steel bars from the bed frame, shouting, "For unity!" Though Zamyatin was strong, he hated fighting. He panicked when the enemy charged and shouted that they could just eat the pizza, let bygones be bygones. As the platform moved down, Perempuan had already armed herself with a steel bar. On the descending platform lay a strange man, likely from level 21. Robespierre fell from above while holding another person, and a woman on level 23 screamed, "It's hot!" as she kicked food onto the platform. But it was too late. The temperature on level 23 quickly rose, igniting her into a fireball. Perempuan rushed over with a blanket to extinguish the flames, while Robespierre fought with the other man again, and a stunned Zamyatin stood frozen. After Robespierre was knocked down, Perempuan, having put out the fire, went to help him defeat the attacker. The platform started moving again, and despite his injuries, Robespierre shouted for them to throw the food back onto it.
They're trying to freeze us!
As Robespierre and Perempuan tossed the food, the room temperature suddenly dropped, and just before it became deadly, they managed to clear everything, finally catching their breath. As Perempuan checked the woman's injuries, Zamyatin suddenly realized the unconscious guy was the one who ate his pizza, and he moved forward to punch him. Robespierre stopped him and tied the man up. Because of this rule breaker, the lower levels didn't get any food today, but that wasn't how they did things. Zamyatin thought their approach was too soft. Maybe he wasn't the only one responsible. He could have eaten other food yesterday, but they didn't let him. Sometimes you have to bend the rules. Robespierre suddenly snapped and shouted, "Freedom isn't about eating whatever you want." Perempuan, full of sadness, said softly, "She's dead." An enraged Robespierre punched the unconscious man several times. After Robespierre calmed down, Perempuan asked how they usually handled rule breakers like this. Robespierre told them they didn't need to do anything. He would ride the platform down with the man until they reached the Anointed One, who was one of the few lucky people to have met the Master and helped lay the foundation for their rules. The Master was known as the Messiah, though no one knew if he was still alive. When Robespierre first arrived, he heard a message of hope spread by the Messiah. People said that at the very bottom where no food could reach, the Messiah survived an entire month through meditation. In the second month, the Messiah was still there, and he cut flesh from his own thigh to feed his starving cellmate. Since then, the story of the Messiah had spread throughout the pit, encouraging unity and fair food distribution. That was the goal they were all meant to achieve, even if it cost them their lives.
Whatever you say, Robespierre, but I haven't eaten in 2 days.
And I want my pizza!
A hungry Zamyatin looked at the burned woman nearby, and Robespierre understood what he was thinking. He said that the Messiah's rules forbade cannibalism. Then he wrapped the woman's body in a bedsheet and threw her down the shaft. As her body crashed down level by level, the sheet slowly unraveled, and her corpse was shattered into pieces before disappearing into the darkness below, level 333. The silence of the dark pit was broken when strange creatures appeared and devoured her remains. On the third day of his time in the pit, Zamyatin finally got to eat the pizza he had longed for. The delicious smell was intoxicating. To save time, he folded the pizza in half and shoved it into his mouth. Seeing the man tied up on the ground, Zamyatin deliberately waved the pizza in front of his face. The man's eyes were filled with hatred, but his body was bound tight and couldn't move. Just then, Robespierre finished his meal, picked up another portion, and dumped it into the waste chute. Zamyatin and Perempuan exchanged confused looks, unsure why he did that. Robespierre explained, "That meal belonged to our roommate who died yesterday. I have to throw it away because the rules forbid us from eating more than one portion. And randomly giving out leftovers only benefits a few people. If the law allows inequality, it will lose all respect." Zamyatin was puzzled. The person's dead and no one else can eat their food? But Robespierre still dumped all 3 meals from the inmates who died yesterday and reminded them that after he left, they must handle any food left by the dead every day. They could choose to eat it, but only if they threw away their own meals. Seeing Zamyatin and Perempuan still confused, Robespierre asked them to trust him. In the long run, this is the best plan. No one should be rewarded for someone else's death. After saying that, he hoisted the man onto the platform, hoping to find followers of the Messiah before reaching the threshold at level 44. It was said that there weren't many followers left, but when found, they would deliver a harsh yet fair punishment. In the days that followed, Zamyatin and Perempuan did as he said. After eating their meals, they dumped the food left by the dead into the waste chute. Zamyatin felt it was a real shame to throw away the food, but an old man from the upper level was watching his every move. In the following days, whenever newcomers ate someone else's food, the inmates from the floors above and below would warn them, reminding them of the rules of the pit. Zamyatin and Perempuan grew closer. One time, after Perempuan helped Zamyatin shave hair off his back where he couldn't reach, Zamyatin shared his beloved pizza with her. A month passed quickly, and tomorrow would be the day the floors were reassigned. Zamyatin said that although he didn't look smart, he actually loved mathematics and had devoted his life to it, until he gave it all up over the square root of -1. It's a number known in math as an imaginary number. One day he realized that people accepted that number, even though it contradicted everything in physical reality. In his heart, imaginary things didn't exist, and from then on, he couldn't trust mathematics or anything else. He quit his job at the university, left his wife and child, and moved back to live with his parents. Just then, news came from the lower floors. This month, food had reached as low as level 175, and people were cheering in celebration. This meant more and more people were following the rules. Perempuan pulled Zamyatin down from the bed, and the two of them danced together in the room. The pit was a place that tested human nature. If you got along well with your cellmate, you'd be assigned a lower floor. Zamyatin and Perempuan woke up to find they had been assigned to level 180, which meant they might not get any food for the next month. After talking with the inmates above and below them, they learned that many people at the bottom still didn't follow the rules. When the food came, they ate whatever they wanted. One man was said to have gone 25 days without eating and was going crazy, muttering the Loyalists' doctrine over and over. After more communication with the floors around them, they realized that most of those people were new, meaning many others had died the previous month. Perempuan said she was a newcomer too, but she could still follow the rules. Zamyatin pointed out sharply, they learned to respect rules when they were on level 24 with plenty of food, not here. Sure enough, when the platform arrived, their faces fell. It was covered with empty plates. Not even scraps remained.
We have all been chosen.
As the days passed, Zamyatin's body began to fail. One day, a human head fell from the floor above, sparking cheers from the others. They believed it was a sign that a follower of the Messiah was cleansing the pit of the barbarians. But the cleansing hadn't yet reached their floor. It would take a few more days. Zamyatin had started coughing up blood, and even with Perempuan's careful care, he was gradually unable to go on. That day, Perempuan heard from the upper levels that the food had been blocked by people on levels 168 and 169. Those barbarians were trying to sever communication between floors, but the follower leading the liberation told them to stay strong. The known rule-breaking barbarians are the disabled man and the cross-eyed woman on level 176, the big guy on level 98 who attacked his cellmate, and the fat man on level 24 who ate the food of his dead companion. Zamyatin and Perempuan sensed something was wrong when they heard that, and when asked which level they had come from, Perempuan lied and said level 46 to cover it up. Zamyatin wasn't sent to the pit for the reason he'd told Perempuan. It was actually because of his parents. He had dropped out of school at 16, failed at business, was kicked out by his wife and children, and even his parents grew tired of him. So they had him sent to the pit, just to stop his pitiful pleas for attention. He had indeed eaten food that wasn't his, and he believed being assigned to level 180 was his fault. He didn't want Perempuan to suffer just for helping him. He asked Perempuan to visit his children after leaving the pit and tell them he would always love them. After speaking, he set fire to his clothes and became a blazing ball of flame falling into the shaft. When he reached level 333, a blind man stood there surrounded by many inmates. As he fell into the darkness, his burning body lit up countless figures in the shadows. When Perempuan woke up again, she had been reassigned to level 51, and her new cellmate was a woman named Sahabat, who had lost one of her arms. When the platform arrived at their level, the food had already been ruined. According to the inmates above, some newcomers again refused to follow the rules. One group on level 46, another even higher up. But this time, a follower was on the upper floors, and it was only a matter of time before those two threats were handled. After eating a few scraps, they heard someone shouting, "There's a barbarian on level 54 too." He gorged himself last month on level 2, and even the people on level 1 couldn't deal with him. This month, he came to level 54 pretending to be one of the Loyalists, but was recognized and attacked his new cellmate. Upon hearing that the people below were preparing to deal with him, Perempuan immediately wanted to go help. Last month, it was because the upper floors broke the rules that Zamyatin died. The higher you live, the more responsibility you bear. It's people like that who ruin everything. But they were told that the rules only allowed 4 people from the 2 floors above to punish a barbarian. The next day, another head dropped from above, drawing cheers. They believed it was the work of the follower Daging. As the platform descended, Sahabat suddenly stopped eating and dismantled 2 steel bars from the bed frame. She tossed one to Perempuan and jumped onto the platform, ready to punish the criminal on level 54. Two men from level 52 looked at Sahabat and Perempuan in confusion. That's against the rules, breaking the rules. If they go down, it could disrupt the communication chain. So one man from level 52 stayed behind, while the other joined them on the platform, along with two inmates from level 53. 5 people with steel bars prepared to face the enemy. But because their feet were visible first, they were ambushed by Barbaro Niveau 54. Hombre Niveau 52 and the other man were both stabbed. Only the 3 women were left to corner Barbaro Niveau 54 against the wall. The man dropped his knife and begged for mercy, but while they let their guard down, he jumped onto the descending platform. Sahabat chased after him, only to be stabbed with glass. Then, an old man leapt from an upper floor to help pin Barbaro Niveau 54 down on the platform, but was also stabbed to death. Perempuan ran forward and knocked Barbaro Niveau 54 to the ground with one blow of the steel bar, but he began begging again, pitifully saying, "He's been trapped here for more than a year and a half. He just wanted to survive like everyone else." Perempuan raised her steel bar but couldn't bring herself to strike. Barbaro Niveau 54 rolled onto the platform as it descended again. Despite being injured, Sahabat still wanted to keep chasing him, but the platform had already gone too far. Perempuan looked at the emotional Sahabat.
It's not your first month in the pit, is it?
Sahabat told Perempuan she had been in this prison for 6 months. On her first day here, her cellmate explained the rules to her, but she believed it was an unfair law because it only protected the food they had selected as their meals in the pit. But having rules is still a good start. They always followed the rules, only ate their own food, and stepped in when others didn't follow them. But one day, they found a man who was malnourished and near death, so they secretly gave him a dead man's food. Days later, follower Daging found them. He was the most brutal and strict of them all, and decided to make an example out of us. Sahabat lost her arm because of it. Her cellmate fought back, had her eyes gouged out and was tied naked to the platform, then sent down to the lower levels where the people below skinned and devoured her alive. So as long as we're in this pit, we'll never be safe. But Perempuan believed that by working together and helping others, they could survive until they got out. Sahabat gave a bitter smile. Don't you get it yet? No one leaves this place alive. The only way to survive is to escape. She decided to escape during the monthly room reassignment, when the sedative gas was released into the pit. She had been searching for a way to resist the gas. Once she found it, she would have a chance to escape. The next day, they discovered someone was tied beneath the platform, screaming as he was sliced apart piece by piece. Sahabat said that man was Daging. They were now punishing the barbarians on level 46. This is their only chance to survive. They came down from level 51 illegally. If those people reach this level, they definitely won't let us go. But the man on level 55 just stared blankly, completely unresponsive. With no other choice, Sahabat and Perempuan picked up their steel bars preparing to fight. But to their surprise, there was a group of people already on the platform, and they were led by a blind man. Daging had heard that the two insisted on joining the mission to suppress the lawbreakers, so as a reward, they could eat as much as they wanted today. They need strong men and women to help defend the law, but just as they began eating, Daging gave a sharp whistle, and Sahabat, Perempuan, and the man who had stayed on level 52 were all subdued. He turned to the man and scolded him. "Why did you let them join the suppression team? Why didn't you stop them?" The man explained that he had stayed on level 52 to protect the communication chain from breaking. But Daging didn't care. He announced the man would be given a full meal tomorrow, followed by a trial, because he had broken 2 rules. First, he didn't go down to help suppress when it was his turn, and second, he failed to stop Sahabat and Perempuan. The punishment for his crime would be the loss of an arm. Then Daging turned to Perempuan. Exceptions made in the name of justice often become excuses for betrayal. So, as a first-time offender, she too will lose an arm. Perempuan cried out, "Why punish the ones defending the law?" But Daging had his own principles. Those who break the law are not defending it. People like that eventually interpret the law however they want. The laws we follow today were bought with lives and unimaginable costs. Then he pulled off his blindfold and showed Perempuan the sockets where his eyes had been. And Sahabat, being a second-time offender, would now lose her only remaining arm. Daging declared, "We kill to create a world where no one else has to. There are still many barbarians below. Only fear can tame beasts. And the fear I bring is information." It was similar to the message Goreng and Baharat had tried to spread in the first film, only Daging's methods were more brutal. At that moment, the man next to them suddenly revealed that Sahabat had planned to escape and told Daging about their escape plan. He said that when Perempuan and Sahabat were talking, he hadn't been asleep at all. This man was actually the same one from the first film, the one Goring and Baharat encountered during their descent, who had food but still wanted to kill his companion. When the platform descended again, Perempuan and Sahabat were pinned down by others, and their arms were pulled by ropes from the opposite side of the shaft, so the descending platform would slice their arms off. Then, they stripped Sahabat of her clothes and tied her naked to the center of the platform, sending her downward. Perempuan, now missing an arm, woke up again, this time reassigned to level 72 with a new roommate, an old man. She asked if Trimagasi was a newcomer to the pit. He nodded silently. The inmates above and below tried to talk to them, but Perempuan told Trimagasi not to answer anyone. She sat beside him and asked what item he had chosen to bring with him when he entered. As she looked at the sharp knife in her hand,
I brought it to cut the bread into slices. At home I buy it sliced, but here, I don't know.
Одолжите.
Perempuan remembered Sahabat's escape plan. They had to keep going down until they found the drowning dog. Just then, the food platform arrived at their level. Trimagasi placed a pillow under it and began to gorge himself. The inmates above quickly tried to stop him, begging him to follow the rules, but Trimagasi didn't care. Seeing this, Perempuan stepped onto the platform with the knife in her hand and invited Trimagasi to come down with her.
Come.
Obviously.
When they reached the lower level, they encountered a man standing guard. He was one of the barbarians, and he assumed Perempuan had come to punish him.
Get anywhere alone. If you want to face the loyalist, you'll have to act like them, in a group.
But Perempuan slid the knife back into her pants, and the man joined their group. He then turned to the unwilling inmates below and told them, no one should be denied their freedom. Without freedom, I'd rather die. The man didn't join, but his female cellmates stepped onto the platform. Now 4 of them were riding downward together, calling out to each level, if you don't want to be punished or tortured to death, come with us. More and more people joined their group in the name of freedom.
We have been dreaming of longer than them, and we have more.
And soon the platform was completely full. Along the way, they also came across Baharat from the first film. It's now confirmed that this is a story that takes place before the events of the first film. They shouted, "Long live freedom," all the way down and reached level 93. Perempuan told everyone to step off the platform and wait for Daging and his loyalists to come down so they could ambush them. Just then, Perempuan spotted someone in the crowd. It was the same Barbaro Nivel 54 who had escaped earlier. The next day, when the platform descended from above, Daging had already heard about what they had done and brought all his strongest men onto the platform. But just when they thought a fierce battle was about to erupt, Daging descended from level 92 with his men, and the platform held nothing but those empty food trays. It turned out that Daging's true goal was to cut off the food supply. For the rest of the month, they wouldn't get a single bite. When they're exhausted and starving, he'll come down and wipe them all out, even if it means sacrificing everyone below level 93. To uphold the law, that price is worth paying. If they surrender, he'll only punish the one who led this foolish uprising. As soon as he finished speaking, a few people dropped out of the rebellion and left on the platform. Barbaro Nivel 73 thought Daging was just bluffing. He won't actually kill his own people, but if that really happened, what would they eat? As the crowd argued, Trimagasi suddenly stepped forward and proposed a horrifying solution.
I've got an idea. What if we go down and eat his people?
Trimagasi suggested they deal with the food cutoff by eating the people on lower levels, and to everyone's surprise, the idea was met with support. People began to say it was a good plan. But in Perempuan's mind, memories of her past surfaced. She used to be an artist, and once her boyfriend brought his son to her exhibition. One of the sculptures was a snarling wild dog. The boy accidentally tripped and fell onto the sculpture. One of its claws stabbed into his eye, killing him on the spot. The lawyers and judge ruled it an accident, and Perempuan became one of the most celebrated contemporary artists. All the pieces in her animal violence series sold for millions, especially the very dog sculpture that caused the boy's death. Racked with guilt, she had chosen to enter the prison voluntarily. The next day, as the platform descended, she secretly tucked a painting into her pants. Unfortunately, that moment was spotted by the sharp-eyed Barbaro Nivel 54. Everyone gripped their weapons tightly, ready to strike as soon as they saw the first ankles appear. But the descending platform was wrapped in mattresses on all sides, and their rallying cries slowly faded. As one man pulled back a mattress, a fierce battle erupted between the law-enforcing loyalists and the freedom-seeking rebels. Because the number of people that could stand on the platform was limited, both sides had nearly equal numbers. Trimagasi stabbed one person, but in the chaos, he accidentally drove the knife into a teammate's side. Realizing what he had done, he crawled under the bed to hide. After finishing off an enemy, Barbaro Nivel 54 turned and charged at the wounded Perempuan, intent on strangling her to death. At the last moment, Trimagasi pushed a knife to Perempuan's side from under the bed. She picked it up and drove it into Barbaro Nivel 54's neck. Even in his final moments, Barbaro Nivel 54 wanted to know why that painting was so important. When the battle was over, the only ones left standing were Perempuan and Trimagasi. Almost everyone else was dead. Perempuan walked over to the injured Daging with the knife in hand and said she had an idea. She could tend to his wounds and, for the rest of the month, feed him pieces of his own flesh, cut carefully to keep him alive, just like the Messiah he admired, who fed his companion with parts of his own body. Hearing this, Trimagasi immediately committed the method to memory. But then Perempuan changed her tone. She said she wouldn't use that method, and she would never use her imagination to torture anyone. Daging replied that she didn't need to. Her actions had already sentenced them all to death. After Daging died, Perempuan began tearing apart the canvas. It turned out that the reason Sahabat wanted to find the painting was because the paint on the canvas could poison someone into a near-death state, allowing them to fake being a corpse and get carried out by the authorities. But when Perempuan invited Trimagasi to join her, he shook his head and refused. He chose to stay behind. Meanwhile, in another part of the prison that they didn't know about, there were countless children. These kids were fighting with everything they had to climb to the top of a pyramid, even if it meant stepping on each other's heads. When one boy finally won, Miharu, the woman from the first season who was looking for her son, appeared and took him away, leaving the other children staring in envy. Among them was the little girl seen at the end of the first film. When Perempuan woke up, she found herself tied up with the corpses of other inmates. The entire prison space now seemed to be in a vacuum. A group of staff wearing spacesuits pushed the pile of bodies toward the hole on level 333, but suddenly stopped. Perempuan took the chance to crawl under the bed on level 333. Soon after, the staff returned, bringing the boy and strapping him to the bed on the opposite side. Perempuan thought about escaping, but when she remembered the child who had died because of her sculpture, she decided she wanted to try to save this boy. But in the zero-gravity environment, she misjudged the force, and her head hit something hard, causing massive bleeding. As she lost blood, Perempuan began to hallucinate. Goreng, the protagonist from the first film, appeared sitting across from her on the platform, tossing her a knife, while the boy lay unconscious on the table. Perempuan struggled awake from the hallucination and found that she and the boy had already reached the bottom of the dark space on the platform. A group of ragged people surrounded them, and Perempuan shielded the boy to keep him safe. But the woman leading them said, "Her journey is over, but the boy still has another chance." They helped Perempuan off the platform, and she looked around to find that the crowd was made up of her fallen companions, including Zamiatin. As they gathered around her and walked into the darkness, the platform carrying the boy suddenly shot upward at high speed. No one knew how much time passed, but eventually, a man brought a girl to this same space. Then, at regular intervals, more adults came with different children, until finally, at the end of the first film, Goreng brought the girl down. Trimagasi also told Goreng that his journey had ended, and the girl on the platform was the message to be sent upward. As the platform began rising with the girl on it, Perempuan suddenly appeared before Goreng, sorrowfully asking why he was there. It turned out that Goreng was her boyfriend. After her artwork caused the death of their child, she chose to exile herself to the prison, and Goreng had come into the pit just to find her. That's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to follow. Thanks for watching.